Coming up next.
To talk on the radio, you need some life experience. Right? You got to be able to relate to the young people and have enough insight that the people in their 30s and 40s can be like, oh, okay, this person isn't completely clueless.
The Job Talk podcast shares stories from people who are passionate and love what they do in their careers. Through conversation, we explore their careers, past work experiences, and the education that got them to where they are now. We are putting together a Career Crisis Ultimate interview series. We are asking experts to give their best advice and guidance around work anxiety, career pressures, career goal setting, and ultimately, career transformation. To learn more about this special interview series and get notified when it's available, please visit our webpage at thejobtalk.com/help. This is the shortened version from our in-depth conversation. Please visit thejobtalk.com to find the full episode.
Today's guest is Jason Gregor. Here's our Job Talk with a radio broadcaster. Yeah, I remember an episode on Seinfeld when George was talking to Jerry and he was throwing out the idea of becoming a sports
play-by-play,
color analyst. And Jerry he looked at him incredulously. So when you graduated from radio and television at the Northern Alberta Institute of Technology, you're about 27, 28 years old. Do you know of people that transitioned as an older person into radio?
Is it a young person's game? Probably, but I will say this. I don't necessarily believe it's great for 19-year-olds, if I'm being honest. I saw so many kids take that program at 18 and 19 and they never go anywhere. To talk on the radio, you need some life experience, right? You got to be able to relate to the young people and have enough insight that the people in their 30s and 40s can be like, oh, okay, this person isn't completely clueless, right? And so, to me, I would always recommend, wait until you're at least 20 to take the program.
Yeah,
I think you'll have a much better chance of success coming out. That's just me. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but having seen the people in my class and seeing the success rate of the people that come out, I think those who are a few years older, like I was obviously, I was a little bit older for sure at 26 or 7 when I started, but I didn't feel I was old in life by any stretch of the imagination when I was 28. And the advantage I had when I was 28, when I went into sports rooms, I wasn't intimidated. I didn't they're just athletes to me.
How do you navigate what you hear from people and what you can share with your listeners without crossing the line?
I made a conscious decision when I first started that I wouldn't be like a TMZ. I wasn't going to report on personal stuff of players off of the ice unless it directly impacted what they did on the ice. And that's my own personal one. Everybody else is going to have so you have to find what your moral compass is and try not to sway from it too much. And so I've never really had a big, I've had a few people, if somebody tells me something off the record, then to me it's off the record.
You mentioned you were a sports fan, but there's no cheering in the press box. So you almost remove something you're passionate about to become the broadcaster that reports on it. How have you found the transition of not being able to be a fan anymore?
I remember vividly the first time in the press box, I was sitting by John Short and he just looked at me and he goes, hey, just so you know, there's no cheering in the press box. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, no. I'm like, all right. And I was like, well, if John said so, I guess not. And yeah, it was for a long time. It kind of, you sit there and it kind of takes the enjoyment of sports out for sure. I'm lucky here the last few years. My nephew plays for the San Jose Sharks. And that's really allowed me, when I go to watch, when he plays a game that I'm in the building, I don't sit in the press box. I go sit in the crowd. And I was lucky enough to see him score a goal live. And I haven't stood up and cheered at a game in a long time. And it was awesome. I truly enjoyed it. It's nice to be a fan for specific things like that. Like family, if anyone's like, oh, you're in the meeting, I'm like, it's my family. Like, give me a break. So I don't think anyone complained. But there's times where I miss it for sure. Like my son at home when we watch sports and he gets fired up and he's kind of like, Dad, you never really get excited. And I'm like, so that's probably a little bit of a negative, but I can cheer. I had teams in other sports. If I'm not covering the league directly, I don't live in an NFL city. So, if I cheer for an NFL team, it doesn't really impact my credibility, I don't believe.
Yeah. What do you love most about what you're doing?
That every day is different. I get bored pretty quickly. So you know, every even though it's the same as far as my show's on at the same time, but the topics are different. There's always different trades or stories and different angles you can do. I like interviewing people. We have some long form interviews in my show, Story Time, where I just kind of find out about their life. I really enjoy that. The other thing I've learned that I kind of stumbled into is I have a platform that can really, I try to use it for positively influencing people, specifically for philanthropy. I do a lot of charity work and stuff like that. And that really, to quote a book from my son, that fills my bucket a lot. And I really enjoy that.
What advice could you give somebody considering becoming a radio broadcaster?
You know, be flexible though, and don't say no. And you'd be surprised at how many different people you'll meet in the industry, or just that are out of the industry in sales or stuff, that have become really good friends, or entrepreneurs and different business people that have opened up different doors and avenues for me. And so that would be my big one is, but make sure you're passionate about it. And, you know, don't go into to media to be famous or to make a lot of money, because you'll miss the enjoyment of the ride, and you might never get either one of those two.
Thank you for tuning in to the Job Talk podcast. For more information, please visit us at thejobtalk.com. Our podcast music was created by our friend Mike Malone in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.